my name is Brody McGowan, and once again we are back with episode 11 of For the Fans Podcast. Once again we are back here with Micah, who has been on our last 3 videos, and I would like to say first of all that I love being able to do this new series, being able to do these weekly Steelers recaps with all of you. And with that, let's turn it over to Micah just to discuss a little bit about what's new with him. So Micah, just what's new with your life at this point? Is anything new going on?
Not much. It's just been the typical college stuff. You got to study, and, that's what you got to do in order to succeed and whatnot.
Yeah, no, definitely. I actually had kind of a little bit of an easy week. After Monday, we had a couple of exams, but now we're at the point where we can finally get on with this. So
yes, sir.
I'm excited to come to you this week to talk about that Thursday night game, being the Steelers versus Cleveland Browns game, which we conveniently decided to watch together in my dorm.
Yes, we did.
Do you have any opinions about watching games in the dorm with me?
I was a big fan of it. I felt that it was kind of, just interesting for us to, gather around and watch the Steelers. But, even though we lost, that it wasn't that enjoyable after we lost, but it was pretty good hanging out with you and watching the Steelers.
Definitely. We also had Ryan Oldfield there and a couple of others. But now, let's get on to this game. But before we do that, let's go on to a couple more messages. The first one being the reminder about the baseball photos. When our first video hits 30 likes on the channel, we have a whole bunch of baseball photos that we will be willing to post on our Instagram channel that you can all go take a look at. It is a couple of trips that we made this summer to some MLB ballparks, and everybody who has been on the channel in the past has the opportunity to send in these photos. So we feel like it would be an interesting photo gallery, and this will be the case as all of you can view it if this video or any of my other videos get to 30 likes on the YouTube. So thank you. Now I guess we'll start with Micah, and Micah, you can go over this Steelers-Browns game.
Yeah, so the Steelers and Browns, they started off the game. They had 3 punts to start off the game, and then there was a flurry of touchdowns. The Steelers scored, the Browns scored, the Steelers scored, and the Browns scored. The Browns did not get the extra point, though, on that one touchdown, so it was 14-13 at halftime. I should also note Nick Chubb was running all of the Steelers defense in the first half as well as the second half in many cases, and George Pickens had an amazing catch in the first half as well. In the second half, the Steelers offense was not nearly moving the ball as well as they were in the first half, and the Browns, they were just doing their thing, and then the Steelers just didn't have enough. It was too little too late to win the game, and the Browns won it 29-17.
Yeah, definitely. Are there any plays you feel like stuck out from this game?
I think the main one that I mentioned already, was the George Pickens play. Although we lost, it was an excellent one-handed catch by George Pickens, and I think that this was a game where you could really see what talent he has and see him utilize it finally in the NFL in terms of Mitch Trubisky targeting him as well.
Definitely. Do you feel like the biggest issue would be the run defense and how Nick Chubb was running all over us? I know we do not do opposing teams' winners in this series, at least so far. We might start that in the future if you would like that. But we would like to just say Nick Chubb was certainly a winner, as well as the Browns' offensive line. So what is your general opinion about the production that Nick Chubb had?
Well, Nick Chubb obviously had an amazing game, and of course he is one of the best running backs in the league for a reason. And our run defense, it really needs to step up, as we saw in many cases last year as well. Of course, if you go up against a good running back, you're probably going to get run all over, especially if the opposing team doesn't have that many good receivers, and you just got to be able to defend the run game.
I am going to actually go one step further and say Nick Chubb is the best running back in the NFL right now. As I think that he just plays with such a furiosity. He plays well but under control, and he's just the moves that he makes. He's fast, agile, strong. He's everything that you want in a main back. And with the struggles of Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry this year,
right,
I would probably go Nick Chubb as the best running back in football, yet alone fantasy football, where I this week came up and said that I deemed Nick Chubb as untouchable in all of my fantasy leagues where I owned him. I said, you cannot have Nick Chubb. Somebody I think offered me, I was like, you're not getting Nick Chubb unless you throw me, your 2 first-round picks. And, I essentially told them, unless you're willing to trade away your entire team, you're not getting Nick Chubb. That's how dominant I think that he is right now. And that should definitely not go understated with this Cleveland offense.
Yeah, I think it's not only how talented he is in terms of running the football, not only with how good the Browns are with regards to the O-line, but also just, the fact that you've got Jacoby Brissett throwing the football, and the fact that, other than Amari Cooper, you don't really have that many very good options for Cleveland. As well as the fact that the other thing you got to consider is that running backs do not have a very long lifespan, and so Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor were both due for a little bit of regression this year, and that's what you're starting to see now.
Definitely, and I feel like Nick Chubb has just taken another step up in his game, and you could get to the legitimate point where he is the best running back in the NFL. So that should not go understated when you're seeing this Steelers defense get torn up this week as they did. Is Nick Chubb is an awesome player. With that, I am wondering if you have any other thoughts about the game as a whole.
I would just say that our offense generally, it was encouraging to see us for a short little period of time where we were actually moving the ball pretty well, where Mitch was completing passes, but after that, there just wasn't much that, that we were able to do, and we got to, play for a full 60 minutes of football, particularly in terms of offense.
My next question that I would have for you is let's go into our winners and our losers section. I'll start off with my first winner, which is George Pickens. The major reason why I consider George Pickens a winner is that they are starting to get him involved in the offense. It's not enough to where it needs to be, and it's not anything that's going to keep Matt Canada off of a losers list, as we will talk about later. But it is getting to the point where, I would say that he personally is definitely a winner of this week due to the fact that he showed off the talent when he was fed the ball.
Right. And I agree that George Pickens needs to be getting the ball much more than he is now. And he has not really had a true breakout game in the truest sense of the word. Yes, he had that catch, which was very impressive, and everyone across the league saw that and was very impressed with that. But he just needs to be getting more targets, and that's just all about it I have to say about that.
My next winner, if you're okay if I go on to that, would be the offensive line, which is the biggest surprise of the week. The offensive line looks pretty good. I'm actually going to come out and say it. The offensive line for this team as a whole looks pretty good. Mason Cole is finally playing up to potential. James Daniels had a pretty good game after having a couple weeks where he looked not so great. And Chukwuekwuemeka Okorafor just continues to develop. I would definitely say the left side of the offensive line with Dotson and and Dan Moore are certainly having their struggles, but it's apparent that they're getting better week to week. Even if the Steelers do not become the best team in the league this year, it would be really good if we could continue to see what we're seeing right now from the Steelers' offensive line. So I feel like the offensive line is a definite strong suit of this team right now. Well, not a strong suit of the team, but a strong suit.
But you're seeing improvement, and that's really what you want to see. Is whenever you see improvement is where you're starting to take steps to get towards where you need to be. And this is a team that I think that when you talk about the O-line and you talk about some of the receivers they have, you have a lot of the pieces that you need to have a good offense. You just got to be able to put them together, and that means having a good quarterback as well as having a good offensive coordinator.
Definitely. I feel like that is the one thing that is really holding this team back. As a lot of Steelers fans will normally be like, blame the O-line, but this week the offensive line is showing improvement. And as a Steelers fan, you should be nothing but excited about that. So the next topic that I'd like to discuss when it comes to our winners is Jaylen Warren, who is the rookie running back who came in this year as an undrafted player. And let's just state it, he is straight up blowing away expectations.
Right, he's been involved in the game pretty heavily for someone that's, undrafted and just people don't really know who he is, but he's had a few good plays here and there throughout some of these games we've seen so far.
He had that one 30-yard play that did get called back due to a holding penalty on Jukes, but that was a great run by Warren, and Warren had a couple of other really good runs where you could look at him and say that he is definitely going to be the piece, even if he's the guy who spells Najee Harris, that he could be the piece to do that. I remember earlier in the year there was a lot of talks about the Steelers signing a veteran running back in order to spell Najee Harris, as we were scared that you might have to, that not having that running back might make him break down too quickly as he'd be getting too many carries. And a lot of Steelers fans were calling for signings of David Johnson or Philip Lindsay or just somebody who was older, to the extent where now you have Jalen Warren who's come in, and he came in at a quarter of what the cost of one of those types of veteran guys would come in and be like, and he has provided all of the production you need.
Right. And I think Jalen Warren has definitely fulfilled the role pretty well in terms of he's not necessarily a guy that's going to be a reason that you win a football game, but he is certainly a key piece to that offense.
Definitely. So those were our winners for this game. This game, we only had 3 winners. It was a loss. So I think we're going to move on to our losers now. Would you like to start this off with our 3-time loser?
So this was one where he put on the loser list where I don't completely disagree, but I don't think that I'm going to slander him as much as, he might, but it's Mitch Trubisky. And I thought that there were times, in terms of what I'm going to say, I thought that there were times where he did, a pretty nice job of driving the team down the field, driving the ball down the field. There were a lot of times where I felt that he completed some good passes, that should have been caught, but there were also times where he just did not complete the passes that he needed to complete and could have had better downfield vision as well, as we've been saying. My
issue with Mitch Trubisky is just it's not the mechanics, it's not anything, it's completely the vision. Even on that George Pickens catch, for as good as you may say it, Chase Claypool, if you rewatch that, was open 25 yards down the field, completely uncovered for what was literally a touchdown.
Right.
And then you have plays where, there was a 3rd and 10, and George Pickens is just standing on the side of the field, wide open, literally waving his arms. I know that might be a rookie mistake, but nobody was covering that man. And as a result, it got to the point where he would have been wide open for the first down, and he was visibly angry after that play, which is completely understandable as he's a rookie wide receiver trying to get used to this quarterback, and things just aren't working right now. But I would just say that you have to go back to Mitchell Trubisky about the play calling and just the element of not making the right decisions when he needs to make the decisions. The second definite loser would be the run defense. This includes a lot of different players. My big one was Tyson Alualu, who pretty much lost his job this week after just playing such a bad game against the run where it's apparent that he just does not have it anymore. So with that being the case, it was an advantage for Cleveland because they could just run the ball down our throats. And that's just embarrassing. That's not stellar football. Having the ball run down your throat, having the 26th best rushing defense, it's embarrassing. And it needs to be fixed. And I don't know if it goes on Tomlin, but I would assume that it goes on the personnel, who at this point is not living up to it. The one thing that I would say is normally a criticism of the Steelers is they do not make change. The Steelers did make a change this week, which was pretty simply just saying that they would prefer to have Isaiah Loudermilk be the guy to do what they need him to do, compared to Tyson Alualu, who had a very bad game. And hopefully that will help shore up some of the issues when it comes to that team. But in the long run, it might be a difficult year for the Steelers without the quality run defense that they need. And also, some of this slack should go on Cameron Hayward, who did not incredibly impact the run either.
Right, yeah, I think that Cameron Hayward could have had a better game as well. And, of course it is Nick Chubb, and so Nick Chubb is going to run down any defense's throat. But we've seen the Steelers get, trampled on by running backs that are not nearly as good as Chubb, And that's an issue that's needed to be fixed for, a while and sometimes. And so it's just something that needs to be addressed for the future.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like that this is just something that the last couple seasons it's been bad, and you need to deal with it. So I don't know if that's going to be bringing in another guy like Montrevious Adams and hoping that he hits, or just switching up the personnel, or if T.J. Watt is the run defense, or what is going on here. But something needs to be done about this run defense because it does not look good. The next 3-time loser, who we will discuss here, is Matt Canada.
Right.
I feel like the first half, I'll start off with that. The first half, I was debating, is Matt Canada a winner? What is going on? Because his offense was running quite well, and although you wouldn't have called him a winner, he played reasonably well. It was that second half where they were going 3 and out on every drive, and that's just part of it goes on Trubisky and part of it goes on Canada. So we still don't know who to place the blame on. This has been a reoccurring thought over the last couple,
Yeah, this has definitely been a theme in terms of how much do you blame Trubisky versus how much do you blame Canada. And it's certainly sad to see either way when we talk about, just the wide receiving talent, going to waste with what you have in terms of Claypool and Pickens and and Johnson, and just not being able to get them the ball in the right spots, and Harris, and just this, a lot of the stuff is just, it comes down to Matt Canada's play calling, not having guys where they need to be and putting them in position to win.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely how I feel about Matt Canada. Now, let's just discuss the final loser on our list, who's a first-time loser onto the losers category, and that is Akello Witherspoon. Last week, Akello Witherspoon got completely mossed in that game against New England. But you were kind of like, he's Akello, he plays okay, and it's fine. So you're like, okay, that's just a bad play by Akello. This week, Akello followed that up from what could have been a game in which he bounced back. He followed that up by getting torn up by Amari Cooper.
Yeah, and Amari Cooper is a good receiver, but you just can't let him just get behind you all the time, as Akello Witherspoon was doing. A lot of just blown coverages and basically making it very easy for Jacoby Brissett to just throw it deep down the field. And you just can't be getting exposed like that, because a lot of times what people will say is that for the defense, you're only as good as your weakest link. And this is particularly true, because when you consider, even if every other guy has lockdown coverage, if you blow the coverage, they can just easily score a touchdown with that. So it's got to be fixed.
I want to address one other person. He is not currently on our sheet, which is down here, but this may have been the worst game of Terrell Edmonds' career.
Yeah, he was not good either.
He did not have he will be another one of the first time. As what I was saying is, I do believe in Terrell. A lot of Steelers fans don't believe in Terrell. I am very much a Terrell Edmonds supporter. He's a very good compliment to Minkah Fitzpatrick, and he is somebody who I genuinely believe in and is a starting caliber safety in the NFL. If you have him upstart Minkah, then that is a very good safety tandem. The issue is, I think he just had a bad week.
Right.
Which,
I'm not too concerned about it going forward. You just got to obviously hope he does well against the Jets, but that's about all I have to say with regards to him.
Definitely. So I guess we're going to end this off with just some overall opinions. Number one, I don't think that this is a good football team. I will come out on a limb. I will say that. I don't think that the offense leads to a good football team. I don't think that the defense, and the run defense in particular, leads to anyone believing that this is a good football team. So with that being the case, I don't expect much out of this season, especially with the fact that after they have this game against the Jets, they will have a 4-week stretch against Buffalo, Tampa Bay, Miami, and Philadelphia. We will see what happens with the Tua Tagovailoa injury, which, if I did not mention yet, prayers up for Tua, because that injury was horrible. And also prayers up for Cody, because I talked to him and, he was very, very upset about it. But what I would say about Cody also is that Cody transferred to a school that was closer to him in South Dakota. So I'll just say we miss Cody Longstaff around here, but after I go on a whole Dolphins rant. But I would assume that the Steelers, especially against 4 legitimate Super Bowl contenders, will go 0-4, which scares the crap out of me, which makes this Jets game, if they want any hope of holding on to this season, a must-win game.
Absolutely.
They must win this game, and in reality, they're probably going to need to sneak a game against one of those 4 teams, and I don't know which one it's going to be. Maybe it's going to be Miami based on Tua's injury. I think Philadelphia, I think the other 3 teams look elite. Pittsburgh always plays Buffalo hard, so you don't know about that. The real question is, can you get TJ Watt back? And all that I have to say is that if reality comes into fruition, and this is not the right team that we need, and that they go into the break at like a 2-5 record or whatever it might be, you would start getting bigger.
Yeah, I think that you're probably looking at coming out of this, 5-game stretch with the Jets and then those other 4 teams you just mentioned. You're probably looking at 2-6. Maybe you win 1 against the Jets and then you get swept by the other 4. Maybe you lose the Jets and you somehow take one away from, let's say, the Dolphins, because obviously I think they're going to be very cautious now with bringing Tua back, particularly after the whole situation that happened with on Sunday and as well as this Thursday against the Bengals. But it's hard for me to see that it's being a successful season for the Steelers. I do agree with that.
I would say that if you could get through this if success at this point, if you want to get into any point of success, it would involve beating the Jets and taking a game off one of those other 4, because then you could essentially go 2-3 in the next 5. And then at that point, you're only 2 games under, and you're going into an easy stretch against the NFC South, which is where you could possibly gain momentum. But with the way that this offense looks, I just don't see it. So all that I can say is that if it does get to the point where it looks really, really bad and they don't at least take 2 out of these next 5, then Kenny Pickett, what you do is you go in there and the rest of the season is for development. And if Mike Tomlin comes out and pushes his team to 8-9 or 9-8, and without starting Pickett, it would be a waste of the season. And I'll go as far as to say that if it doesn't work, if as soon as it's definitive that they're out, they need to be playing Kenny Pickett to see what they have in him. He's a first-round quarterback for a reason. And if you're not going to do that, then you're going to hinder this franchise.
Right. I think that if it does become clear that Mitchell Trubisky is not the guy, and it does become clear that this is just not a team that's going to be overall very successful this year, you need to look towards the future. And what do you have in terms of the future? You have Kenny Pickett, and so you're going to want to test him out. You're going to want to get Pickens the ball more. I mean, you're going to want to get him the ball more, regardless. But yeah, I mean, it might be tough for us to salvage the season.
With that is another episode of For the Fans Podcast. Micah would like to thank you for being on here. I would also like to thank you for tuning in to this every single week. We would also like to thank our good friend David once again, who is out here doing cameras for us and is really helping to increase the production quality here.
You're welcome.
And all that we have to say about him is that he really does a lot of the behind the scenes work. Definitely. And we would also say that he has his own TikTok channel called Captain Cuber. I am going to go tell you to go subscribe to him on TikTok.
Thanks, Brody.
I'm going to tell you to subscribe to me over here at For the Fans Podcast. Please subscribe and like our videos because that means a lot to us over here as we are just getting started on this journey in reality, even though it has been about a year and a half at this point. We would say we're still getting started over here, and we just love making content for you guys, and subscribing shows to us that you care a lot about us. Also, subscribing to David would show a lot about you liking David's content and how you like the partnership that me and David have over here. Also, we would also like to say, please buy Captain Cuber X Speed Cube Shot merch over in David's.
I just got Captain Keeper mugs now.
Yeah, exactly. He just got
so now you can get like merchandise.
He just got Captain Cuber and Speed Cube Shop mugs.
No, it's just me.
Just Captain Cuber mugs.
Not with Speed Cube
And
Shop.
then he also has his regular merch is with Speed Cube Shop.
Yeah.
I will be sure to pick that up as soon as I can. As soon as David is able to fulfill an order.
Sure.
And me and Micah will come on here repping his merch at one point. And hopefully help him out a little bit. But please sub to me. Please sub to David. And we love having Micah on here. So this partnership is definitely going to continue. We love making videos for you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.